everyone, and welcome to this fourth webinar dedicated to UNaLab cities. As you know, this kind of activity is organized in the framework of body system activities that include, apart from webinars, also face-to-face meeting workshops, website, a specific space section in the website, just to share information among cities. These webinars will be recorded just to be shared among cities that are not attending the webinar today. And speaking about the website, we had some new contents during the last days. Now there are 3 sections, NBS for water management, NBS for urban growth and densification, and NBS for biodiversity, where there are information collected during our activities, webinars, workshops, and also information shared by the cities. There you can find also a document that summarizes the feedbacks and suggestions received from the cities during the workshop in Prague last May regarding the body system activities, the future activities and their interests. And also a template to track the exchange of information and material, so to track the collaborative activities between cities. So if you exchange information, material, please fill in this template, as you can see in this slide, so we could track this activity and upload it on the website, so also the other city could see and benefit from this exchange of information. The next body system activity will be a workshop in Castillon, 1 hour workshop, probably organized. We are still organizing it, but probably it will take place on 26th of November. So I hope everyone could attend it. Concerning this webinar, in collaboration with Hong Kong Polytechnic University, we will deepen the city of Hong Kong, general information about its climate and its problems related to climate change. And the assessment of water quality of rivers restored from urban drainage channels, how to evaluate the biodiversity of urban green spaces from perspective of architecture, engineer and construction practitioners, and MBS monitoring measures and results. And at the end of the webinar, there will be an interactive session with question and answers. So I hope you will have some questions to share and to ask to Hong Kong. We decided to organize this kind of webinar to have a non-European, an extra-European city perspective on the NBS related topics, and to give Hong Kong the possibility to share its studies, researches with us, and learn so successful stories, good practices, but also and methodologies to creation and monitoring of these solutions. So I could pass the floor to Yuong. I can. Okay. Yuan, John, can you share your screen now?
Yeah, sure. Let's see which one. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, very good. First of all, thank you for coming to the webinar. I know it's a Friday afternoon. Thank you for staying with us. And today I'm going to talk about some work related to our project. And the first session is a brief introduction to Hong Kong and our involvement in the UNaLab project. And this is the outline of my presentation. And this shows the location of Hong Kong. We are located in China, have a typical tropical climate. That's the right-hand side is the territory of Hong Kong, divided into 18 districts. Hong Kong, as I said, is situated in a humid subtropical climate zone with very frequent rainstorms and typhoons in summertime. For instance, last year we had a super typhoon and knocked down lots of trees. The photo showing on the right-hand side, after the typhoon, there are about 10,000 trees knocked down by the typhoon. We also seen a gradual change in addition to some extreme weathers, some gradual climate change. One noticeable phenomenon we are experiencing is the weather becomes warmer than before. This chart shows the number of very hot days. You can see there was a peak in 1960s. In recent years, we also see quite a lot very hot days. In addition, the urbanization has created many other environmental problems, such as bad water and air quality, storm water overflow, increased noise, and loss of biodiversity. Hong Kong, unlike many European cities, is very crowded. Actually, I think it's quite typical of cities in Asian countries. In many Asian countries, we have quite dense populated cities. Hong Kong ranks between second, third in the population density. The total population in Hong Kong was estimated as 7.5 million in 2010, and the population size has grown significantly since the 90s. There are some noticeable initiatives in Hong Kong that related to our study. For example, two examples. One is the urban river restoration, and another one is roof greening. By the way, everybody with me? Is there any trouble with connection or anything like that?
Not so far.
We hear you well, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good. Okay, thanks a lot. So, one initiative in Hong Kong in the old days, even now, we have a lot of drainage channels. The main purpose of the drainage channels are for drainage, storm water drainage. They occupy lots of land and does not have any aesthetic value and does not serve lots of ecological function. So the Drainage Service Department has been trying to revitalize some water bodies by incorporating green and eco-conservation elements into the channels and river training works. The techniques, later I'm going to talk more about these cases, but here these shows some photos. I think this photo here, the first one was is a recently completed project. In addition, if we look at many cities in Hong Kong, including Hong Kong and many other Asian countries, the total land or the total coverage of the city can be basically divided into two types. One is rooftop, another one is pavement, road pavement. So both types of cover, we believe, does not match our natural-based solution. It creates lots of problems. So to enhance the ecological value and help reduce the urban heat island effect, we are also trying to install more green roofs on top of the roof. Personally, I think this has lots of potential because we indeed have lots of roofs. At some roofs installed by the Drainage Service Department in Hong Kong. So in summary, in Hong Kong, we have some environmental stresses like extreme weathers, serious urban heat island effect, which is related to the climate change, high population density. We don't have lots of green space for people to enjoy, to relax, and limited open space. And the Hong Kong government has made some environmental management initiatives, and we use some of these initiatives as case studies of our natural-based solution. And I think Hong Kong has potential to apply some natural-based solution. They are important not only for Hong Kong, also for other densely populated cities, especially in Asian countries. And it's a bit faster. Here are our research objectives, our originally proposed objectives. I'm going to develop integrated forest pavement system with water storage tank. Then we are going to selectively adopt natural-based solutions and implement them locally through living labs and perform life cycle cost analysis, life cycle assessment, and the social impact analysis of the developed natural-based demonstration project. So those are our objectives. We have been monitoring, we have selected some case studies, especially the river restoration projects and also some green roofs. There are 4 major monitoring programs that are currently being implemented. We are checking the water quality, biodiversity and urban heat island, thermal performance of green buildings, and we are also trying to see the resilience of nature-based solution infrastructures. And in addition to the environmental monitoring, we have conducted a social impact study on those river restoration projects. We want to see how public respond to the urban natural solution. So far, we have collected more than 150 questionnaires. Here are some expected results based on the existing nature-based solution to evaluate the environmental performance of the living labs, and based on the local environment of Hong Kong, propose a new nature-based solution that is not only effective but also adaptive to the local climate condition. And from an environmental, economic, and social perspective, we evaluate the environmental problems of nature-based solution in the city. Thanks a lot. Let me see my time. I'm still on track, perhaps a little bit over time. Okay, so now what's our agenda next? Give a presenter to Sarah, maybe? Or should I continue?
Yeah, no, you should continue, please. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks. I'll continue. So the next part, let me see. Here's some cases. I want to share some case study related to water quality monitoring. And that's the outline of my presentation. And that's the typical drainage channel. In Hong Kong, I think we have 20 or 30 of these drainage channels, because in the past, due to the heavy rainfall in the summer, and we also have some very steep mountains, so we built a lot of these drainage channels. But the concrete drainage channel does not have ecological, aesthetic, or recreational values. We have about 4 or 5 trial river restoration projects. The picture on the right-hand side is a photo we took as one of the river restoration projects. You can see it looks more natural. We use the techniques like removing the concrete pads, construction of vegetation, channel embankments, geofabric, grass, etc. And this part of the study, we want to see how this section affect the water quality. Before doing the study, we assume after changing a section into more nature-based stream, the water quality may be improved. We don't have data to show that. So we adopted a very unique upper and lower stream approach to monitor the river quality. Let me show the methodology. We checked 2 cases, and they are located in different places. So you can see the sampling location 1 and 2. The another one is 1 and 2. So every time when we visited, when we visited the site, we took samples both from the upstream and downstream at the same time. Then we check the water quality. We have been continuously monitoring for some time. Till now, it's about 1 year. And here are some water quality parameters we tested, including these major categories: physical, chemical, solid contents, etc. And here are some device and the lab test equipment. And I'm going to jump to the results. And the left-hand side, the column shows the parameters that have been tested, and the data. This table summarizes the test data, and also we provide some common reference limits: upstream, downstream, difference. Not so many parameters are statistically significant, and those significant ones are highlighted in bold from the paired t-test or Wilson test. Wilson test is a non-parametric test if the data is not normally distributed. Except for we seen a common problem, not sure about partner cities in Europe. We see a common problem here is the BOD level, and also the E. coli. The E. coli here is quite high in the water, and here the quality shows a change in the composite water quality index. This composite quality index is used in Hong Kong, generally indicates the water quality. I think it includes dissolved oxygen and nutrients, perhaps another one, BOD. And you can see in one case, the situation is generally improved. From bad to fair, from fair to good, fair to good. Okay, it's generally better. But in another case, it's not improved, even slightly worse. So it's quite a conflict when we look at the two. It's not consistent, and this shows some time series data. You can see some of for the case 1, the DO is significantly increased, which is good because we want to see an increase in DO, and also the NH3 is reduced. And then we try to try to explain why. And we found out maybe the finding also have a reference value to other cities and to future projects. If we look at the first case, where the water quality is slightly improved, in some features that's not used on the second case. For example, as we have a small waterfall, and we have more pools and riffles, more turbulence, and some vegetated palm roll island dotted in the river, and also the water generally we think flows faster. And the second case, I said either no improvement, and the nutrients seem increased a little bit. And that's a photo of the second case. Does not have a waterfall, and also the water flows quite slowly in the restored session. And one thing we think it will not affect a lot. We also have a drainage pipe directly connected, storm water drainage pipe directly connected to the restored session that may make some bias or create some bias for our monitoring data. When we look at the site, we also notice on this site there are quite some dead vegetation, dead plants in the restored site because slow water movements. So those dead plants accumulate there. We think they may release some nutrients, pollutants back to the water. And also you can see the site does not have the dotted vegetation island. So the conclusion is our main finding, water quality improvements in DO and the pollutant removal were found in one case. Sorry, I did not read Monica's question.
Yeah, but we could read them at the end of your entire presentation, I think. Monica, what do you think? Okay.
Thanks. And maybe after the in our discussion session, I can come back to get to the point. And we can also see a lot of fluctuations in pollutant concentration. Sometimes it's quite high, sometimes it's low. It's affected by weather condition. It's by the storm water runoff. So maybe we can do something to control the storm water runoff. And we also find that many quality parameters are highly correlated, so need to monitor so many parameters because time consuming and costly. And we also believe it's very important to maintain, to hear those plants and vegetation growing in the restored session. Otherwise, they are dead, decompose, and they will eventually release pollutants to river, to the water. And we're still trying to do some long-term monitoring, and also we are actually looking at the biodiversity of the. So that's water part. Now I'm going to move to the another one. Part 3 is biodiversity. As I said, we are also trying to check the biodiversity of the urban restored infrastructures. We believe it's a very important topic, but our background generally are trained engineer, civil engineers. We don't know, although many city infrastructures are built and managed by civil engineers, but we don't have almost no background on biodiversity. The first question is, how can we measure biodiversity from architecture, engineer, contractor, construction practitioners perspective? We try to look at the literature. We don't find a lot of literature dealing with this. So our objective is to build a framework of organizing different urban green space. By the way, UGC is UGS, urban green space, which includes some park and green roofs, rivers, wetlands. Try to organize them And then we try to recommend our indicators for each type of urban green space. And we want to demonstrate the bioindicator monitoring process and biodiversity evaluation methods through case studies. So from a literature review, we have divided the urban green spaces into these types. Dry, that depends on the nature of the urban green space. Dry, semi-dry, and wet. Dry, the dry ones include the green roof, green wall, green corridor, which connects the roads and the urban parks, and etc. And we also look at biodiversity indicators. So for biodiversity, we look at two things. First, what's the selection criteria? Because there are many things we can use to check the biodiversity. So first, what's the criteria to select the proper biodiversity indicator? Secondly, what are the alternatives or the exact species we want to select? We have read a lot of literature and found out that we may use these criteria to select the biodiversity indicators, including how representative of the bioindicator to reflect the overall state of the green space, the residency, and residency means when we approach them, we should be able to see them. They don't fly away or move quickly. The abundance. So every time when we visit, so we hopefully we can find them, encounter them. Sensitivity, that bioindicator's ability to react quickly to negative impacts on the habitat, and also cost-effective. We know in some literature it's very complicated to check the biodiversity. We would have to catch the animals and do a thorough study. But for civil engineers, and perhaps difficult for them to do the thorough study. So the cost effectiveness, another criteria. And also we want to see the value to society. For example, some special species being unlocked or very valued by the society. So we use these six. We temporarily selected the 6 criteria. And these are the actual biodiversity indicators. Birds, these are different types of the indicators, and that's how we calculate the diversity index. And we actually used a survey. We sent the survey to a different group of people, including the civil servants, government officials, practitioners in urban planning, architecture, civil engineering, etc., specialists in biology and ecology, and researchers. We want to see their different opinion, the relative importance of the criteria, not directly the indicator, but the criteria. So that's the survey, screenshot of the survey. And then we also interviewed some biologists on indicators, how the indicator match the criteria. And this is a brief summary of the number of participants in the survey, where they are from, and This also in-depth. This shows an in-depth interview of the participants. We collected the data, and also eventually we actually developed a weight on those 6 criteria, and also we selected certain our indicators, and we used our developed form or framework on the 2 studies. And one thing I think a very interesting thing we did is we try to use some benchmark to study the biodiversity of the human restored sites, artificially restored sites. So we want to know if the restored sites fully restore the biological value, ecological value. So we used some natural river stream as a benchmark. We did a biological survey there, and then compare that with the artificially restored sites. And that's some evaluation criteria. These are eventually selected biodiversity indicators, birds, fish, vegetation, insects. We crossed some based on our interview with the specialists, and that's how we use them, choose them a different type of urban green space. And we actually did some biodiversity monitoring on a trial basis. And please be understandable, we are trying to approach this from a civil background, perhaps not as scientific, comprehensive as people would do from ecological or environmental. And here are some photos we took from those restored sites. And that's some results, the biodiversity indicators from sites. And again, photos. And through the monitor, that's the number of the species. We can see generally it's on an increased trend compared to at the start of the survey period. Conclusion, we have developed an urban green space framework as a guide and the classification for an analysis of following bioindicator recommendation. Selected. We have developed a set of selection criteria and did the survey, in-depth interview, and we did some case study. Here are some references. Okay, and I think I will continue. Okay.
Yes.
Does everybody
yes, sure.
still follow me? Okay, good. Thank you. Another thing we are trying to look at is the how resilient are these natural-based solutions. In my presentation, we only look at the river restoration project. In fact, we are also thinking about those. I'm not sure how many of you been to Hong Kong. On some green roofs, we are also planting some trees. Sometimes even big trees. So also we have some green walls. We don't know how these green features are climate resilient. That's another part not shown here. Here I'm only going to show the resilience of the restored sites or the river sites. And because again that's the introduction to the river sites, why we did those projects, and we read some resilience literature and thought about different definition of resilience. We came up with this analysis framework. Resilience, we look at 3 levels of resilience. Level 1 is engineering resilience. It basically means our structure should be resistant, absorptive, robust. So, they should stay the same in extreme events. And the next level is system resilience. And here are some characteristics: restorative, redundant, resourceful, rapid. That means even some components, maybe they are damaged, lost their function. The system functional performance of a system should stay the same. And the third level is complex adaptive system resilience. Well, here, the resilience, not only the system function may change slightly, or new functions may be developed after the adaptive. So we use this framework, look at the resilience of the river restoration projects, and we follow the 5 steps to look at the issue. Like first, description of the system, identification of what we care about, which is the figure of merit, and the definition of a disruptive event. So what may cause the potential resilience problem. Then we evaluate the component restoration, identify the overall resilience strategy, and identify resilience measures. So here the case study, again, that's the 2 case studies I presented before. And here are the different features used on these 2 cases. This is natural-based solution features. Then you can see the case 1 has more features than case 2. And then is how we identify what the figure of a merit or system function. And we also look at the disturbance. The main disturbance here in Hong Kong is rainstorm and typhoon events, the flooding risk. Perhaps other cities would have other kind of problem. Here, it's the main rainstorm is the main threat. And we try to measure the engineering resilience. We assign them different value, like failure, impaired, successful, and that's the engineering resilience. For the system resilience, we observe the general change. And for the complex adaptive system, we mainly look at the vegetation change. And that's who. And that's some photos we took before and after heavy flooding events. The structural features, like some that's post enhancement, how they look like, and the current situation, how they look like, and many of them damaged to some extent. And for the there are also actually many are still intact for the structural features. For the ecological enhancement features, because wooden pools and fish ladder and pools and riffles, sandal stay, they are impaired. They are partially damaged after several flooding events. And here is a summary. S means these different features. S means successful. F is failure, and I is impaired. You can see the structure. Okay, the structure part, most of them still successful. And here we want to look at the system resilience. Do they still provide the intended function or not? And we also want to look at the change of vegetation. One interesting case we found out from the case studies is that the species richness generally declines. The plant species, the number, the different types of vegetations, it's decreasing. In addition, we see lots of non-native species growing on those sites. And I think nature, the third part, is what we call it complex adaptive system resilience. So the naturally selected ecosystem kind of different than the originally planned system. So it adapts to a new situation. But we have some suggestions, but we are still not clear from a river management perspective project. Now, here are some conclusions. We developed the framework process, and we think it's generally helpful in generating technical and managerial insights. And we can use the proactive design and adaptive operation management. For example, for some of the features, if they are not resilient, future designs, we may need to change the design or remove them. And another important topic, not important conclusion is that we think before the flooding events, maybe those vegetation need to be removed for the river manager, so that we will not impair the drainage function. Otherwise, those plants will be washed away by the heavy floods and clog the drainage system. Also, the plants will decompose, and that will add water quality. It's back to the previous presentation. Dead plants, when they decompose in the restored session, they will degrade the water quality. So that's this part. I hope I'm still on track of
Yes, you're perfectly on time.
Okay, very good. So we have the last part left. In this part, we try to look at the urban heat island effect. That's more it includes two components. One is more on a bigger scale, another one is on a smaller scale. And we want to look at the urban heat island effect in Hong Kong because Hong Kong is still very hot. I'm not sure about the weather condition in your place. I assume it's much more pleasant than the weather in Hong Kong. And so urban heat island effect is quite a concerned issue here. And here are some data or equipment we use. And we did some remote sensing study. We look at the satellite image and the vegetation in vegetation and land use types across the different districts in Hong Kong. We also look at the temperature, and this shows the temperature. You can see the highest temperature here, the red one, is actually the Hong Kong airport. That's where we have experienced the highest temperature. And also the green zones block area means the residential areas. The residential area is also correlated with high temperature. So that residents are more likely affected by the urban heat island effect. Sorry, does anyone try to talk to me?
Sorry, yeah, Jung, it was me, but sorry.
No problem, huh?
Yeah.
So we also.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Maybe I lost one piece of the webinar, so I'm not sure that you saw Monica's question related to. You got a message about Monica's question. I don't know if it's the time or.
Margarita, we agreed to ask to respond to Monica at the end of the presentation.
Sorry to disturb you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We also try to look at the temperature difference at a smaller scale. We use a thermal camera and stick the image together and to see the thermal performance in a smaller. And for the bigger area, we look at the urban heat island effects and identify those areas. And we use a technique called the geographic weighted regression analysis. We found out that the technique is quite interesting. For example, the effect of vegetation is different in different places. If you look at the figure, the upper figure, that shows the coefficient of NDVI. NDVI is an indicator of vegetation. You can see in some regions, very effective reducing temperature, while in other regions, they are not so effective. The bottom one figure shows the overall R square. That means how the model fits in the region of Hong Kong. In general, our conclusion is in the northwest region of Hong Kong would be very effective if we increase the vegetation cover, like planting more trees, using more green roofs. Then we try to think about why. That's because in other places, they are affected by strong wind. So the wind situation, the strong wind, because it brings the breeze from breeze from the sea. It can effectively reduce the temperature. But for the northwestern region of Hong Kong, because it's blocked by mountains, there are not a lot of breeze from the sea. So here we would rely more on those vegetations. So that's a major finding from our remote sensing. And here we also did a study at a more microscopic scale. We try to look at different covers, different the building type. We look at the green wall, some green roof with other roofing materials, how their impact on the surface temperature. And so that's what we did for the urban heat island effect. We look at both large scale and local scale. And I think that's all my presentation. And it's about 1 hour. Thank you very much for staying with me.
Thank you, Yuong, for your very interesting work and presentation and to have shared with us. So we could start our question and answers session, starting from Monica's question.
Thanks.
So she asked about who was the project owner for the river revitalization project and who was collaborating in the project. In the design and realization, and about the monitoring.
Okay, I'll try to answer because I perhaps did not get the question very clearly. We are partnering with the Drainage Service Department, Hong Kong. And I think we have 4 case studies now under the river restoration projects, and we have been continuously visiting the sites, and we are also looking at some very natural stream back in the mountain area in Hong Kong, undeveloped area. We also use those as a case study, both as a case study and a benchmark to compare the river restoration sites. And what are the other questions from Monica?
She asked who was collaborating in the project, the project design and realization, and the monitoring.
Who has the Drainage Service Department hired a professional consulting company that designed all these restoration features. Does this answer the question or not? No?
Yeah, Monica, thank you for the response. Okay.
How do you collaborate with the city? How does the relationship work? Okay, very good. I think it's a very interesting question. From our experience, the city managers, that's at least my impression, okay? If you say they are doing a great job, everybody is happy. If you tell them the water quality, the benefits is not so obvious, they are not so excited about it. But we tell them because of our UNaLab project, we have the budget. We can analyze the water quality. We can do some biodiversity, and if we do not do that, the city manager would hire consultants to do that, which are quite costly. So in general, they are welcome for us to do this type of study. And also, because part of our project is to develop the porous pavement system. By the way, we have already developed a prototype of a new porous pavement system, and the government agencies, they are quite interested in this. So this kind of like our help to them develop better stormwater drainage techniques. So I think our collaboration relationship generally goes well. Although recently we haven't been meeting each other because there's a lot of activities in Hong Kong. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Yong. I also have a question for you about the funding of the economic aspect of your monitoring activities. They were all financed by the government, all your activities? Were there financing programs or something like that?
Okay, very interesting question. So for I think I'll also add another comment to your question. First, your answer to your question, the financial part, mainly we use our UNaLab project to do the water quality test. And we have 2 to 3 PhD students working on this project. And our department has a lab, water quality test lab. And most of the water quality parameters are tested by our own research staff. And except for the heavy metal, we partnered with another lab in mainland China, helped us analyze all those heavy metal parts. And another thing about this, the partnering with experience with the drainage service department, because our original plan, we also want to look at the life cycle cost analysis, and we only got the total number of spending on each case, but we don't have a very detailed number of spending for each item. So we hope we could get more detailed cost information, but we haven't received it. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Yong.
Thanks.
Are there other questions from the cities?
Sara, I have a question, Carolina speaking. I would like to ask something about the legislative framework. Is there any specific law or requirements for what it concerns the biodiversity?
Very good question. And Hong Kong 2 years ago or 3 years ago published a white paper. I think it's 100 pages. According to the white paper, Hong Kong is very, that's from a government perspective, they should promote the biodiversity or trend in Hong Kong. And I think that's a very important goal or very important city. And the white paper, I think it's a part of the government initiatives, and it's approved by the legislation council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How about, let me ask, how about other cities approaching biodiversity? Is very interested or concerned issue in your cities?
Hello, can you hear me? I hope my microphone is working.
Yes, yes.
It is.
Oh, okay, it is. That's good. Yeah, it's a bit a difficult question because, well, there are no rules for concerning biodiversity, but actually now in the city of Eindhoven we are working a lot on what we call I have to translate nature inclusive construction. And that is something that more and more builders are using and developers want to do, and that gets a good response. And it can be as easy as having nesting and resting places for birds, but it can also be a totally different choice of building materials. So something between a tiny investment and a big investment. But that's what we are working on now to try to get more biodiversity, especially in the inner city, but in the whole city actually.
Yes, we think, at least from academic perspective, we think it's a very important topic to look at. Monica, experience too.
I could not hear the last thing you said. Maybe the rest didn't as well.
The last sentence. Yeah, I said it's from academic perspective, we think it's a very important topic, and city managers can do a lot. We are trying to wrap up with one part of the study about the selection criteria for bioindicators, the types of bioindicators. Maybe after we finish the draft, we could send it to some of you who are interested. You could give us some comments, or we can jointly work on it.
That does really sound interesting, and also something we are trying to do is do more communication about biodiversity and trying to have some kind of long-term plan for biodiversity enhancement in the city. And we are going to work with what we call the small 5 of Eindhoven. So it's 5 types of animals, comparable to what you had in your study, but we use it actually also for communication. So they come back in publications we do about the greening of the city. So we also try to get more attention in that way.
Okay, I think one thing you did better than us is the communication part, the education, communication to citizens. And here, I think it's more like a top-down approach. And many of the ordinary citizens perhaps don't hear too much about it.
Well, actually, it's still a bit the same in Eindhoven, that it's a smaller group that knows a lot. There's another group that knows a bit, and there's a big group that is not really interesting. And we are really trying to get more people interested in a way that they see that it's not something difficult or very, I don't know, green only to work on it, but just logical, fun, and the way to save something of our world. So, yeah, it's we are getting there, but it's still a lot of work.
Right, definitely.
Johan, sorry, concerning this topic of citizens' involvement, I have also another question because I know that you submitted a survey to the citizens about their reaction on natural-based solution. And I would like to know how was the result of this survey and how did you use it?
We are still trying to summarize the survey because the questionnaires are quite long. We have a lot of questions, and we got more than 150. So in general, the public is quite positive on those natural-based solutions, and the majority of the public. And the negative comments, I think they are more related to the resilience of such structure or such project. When we did the survey, it's more like an interview type of survey. So we went to the site and asked people there, and some of them expressed concerns such as after the heavy flood, all those damaged or washed away, those plants washed away by the flood. So they think it's a waste of money. Okay, bye, Monica. And they think it's a waste of money. But later, even with the several repetitive floods, we can see the vegetation, they can still grow back. So it shows some resilience.
Okay, thank you, Young.
Thank you.
Does anyone have other questions? Probably it could be helpful if you try to give the cities some suggestions about the steps for effective monitoring activity. Just briefly, some suggestions. So,
I think we are trying to summarize, wrap up our experience as a biodiversity monitoring, and we already have some draft as a water quality monitoring. We can circulate or send to you guys later, and I think the biodiversity one, maybe it's better to, instead of the direct question, a direct answer to your question, it's perhaps better to just send you the entire document, which includes how we divide different types of urban green space, how we categorize them, and how we select those criteria, and what species to monitor, and how to monitor after they get the data, how we develop a quantitative index, I think the entire process may be useful, but we could also get your feedback, draft. I anticipate we can complete that in 1 or 2 months. Perhaps 1 or 2 months.
Thank you. That could be
Thanks.
really interesting, I think. Yeah. So if anyone else have other questions, I think that we could close this webinar. Will you be in Castillon, Yuong?
I need to check my schedule. I think it's perhaps around our final exam period.
Okay.
And if it's around that period, it's difficult for us to apply leave. But I will check on it.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Yeah, if possible, I would like to.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, and see you in Castillon. And check the website for the outcomes of this interesting webinar.
Thank you very much. Especially appreciate your stay in this Friday evening.
Thank you. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. You too.